Was the Biden-Netanyahu meeting a success?
Netanyahu wanted a meeting with Biden anywhere at any time in order to be able to tell Israelis that his overhaul plan is in no way damaging relations with the U.S. That Biden should give him this gift suggests that he has at least hopes that a Saudi deal is attainable, and that is genuinely interesting because he must know that the composition of Netanyahu's government makes that very difficult, if not almost fantastical.
I don't think that neither Biden nor the administration or the Congress really do care about the judicial reform. What they want to see is stability in the region. What they want to see, the peace process, I would say even going back to life. The judicial reform was just one very small topic that he had to mention.
This meeting puts an end to 9 months of a boycott of Netanyahu by the president, which clearly relates to the judicial reform, as you put it, the authoritarian overhaul, as I would put it, that you consider to be a small thing. I would ask you, Mr. Katz, why is it that Netanyahu had to strive so hard to achieve this meeting, and in the end, to date, has still been denied a White House meeting, if not for the fact that perhaps Biden does care about having Israel not become an authoritarian country? Is there another reason?
Well, I'll tell you what the reason is. There's a lot of pressure, politics, the opposition, as we see these days, are doing its best to damage Israel's PR.
Oh, really? Biden's scared of a bunch of Israeli protesters, liberals in the streets. He's quaking in his boots.
Allow me to answer. You asked me a question. I can almost see you tearing after the success of the meeting.
I'm sorry. I assumed you were joking.
Dr. Freeman, simply put, is a Saudi nuclear program a ticking bomb for Israel? Does Israel have more to gain or to lose from Saudi normalization or the satellite agreements surrounding Saudi normalization?
Well, I think it remains to be seen what's going to be in the agreement. I saw the reports concerning the nuclear program that could be starting up in Saudi Arabia. But I think the real threat is the Iranian nuclear program. And we know that part of the normalization that Israel is doing with the Arab world is really to project that Iran is not normal. And we're forming a coalition against Iran. So I think part of what's going to be happening in terms of Israeli decision-making is what's a bigger threat, the possibility of a Saudi Arabia delving into something that might be a threat in the future, or the present and clear danger of Iran and what it poses to Israel and other players in the region.
Dan Perry, today's threats versus tomorrow's potential ones?
Normalization with Saudi Arabia would be a tremendous boon for Israel in the region, no doubt about it. I would hope that would coincide with an improvement on the potentially much more disastrous Palestinian front. But putting that aside, the various conditions that appear to be related to this deal, including the possibility of civilian nuclear program in Saudi Arabia, are disturbing, because Israel itself has in the past warned against precisely that scenario where there is a nuclear race across the Middle East that Israel does not want to see, even if it includes its allies and its Arab friends, even Egypt. Who knows, maybe even Jordan. That's not a great scenario, but you can't have it all. And at the end of the day, this is premature. The main question, I think, with the Saudi deal, which again I would welcome, is whether the Saudis really are going to sell the Palestinians down the river. I have my doubts about that. I don't rule it out, but it's possible that the Saudis will, in the end, condition a very attractive deal for Israel on something Israel should also want, on something that rational Israelis indeed do want, which is a peace process with the Palestinians, or at the very least a separation process from them. And we know very well that Netanyahu's fanatical right-wing allies are not going to allow this. So, we could be headed for interesting times ahead.
So, Gilad Katz, before we take a break, will Netanyahu's right-wing coalition swallow the bitter pill with the Saudi spoonful of sugar?
Well, that's a very good question. I have no idea about that. I can assure you that if we'll have a deal on the table, a normalization deal, a peace treaty, whatever, I think that Netanyahu will be able to have a majority. The question is, what will happen to his coalition? I have no idea about that. As my colleague said, it will be very, very interesting these coming months.
Yes, well.
I have to say, Ellie, this is a truly historic day because I find myself in agreement with Mr. Katz. There is no doubt that if Netanyahu succeeds in bringing about this deal, he will have his majority in parliament because whatever the right-wing nuts are going to do, Benny Gantz and Yair Lapid's party will certainly support.
Are protests on foreign soil undermining Israel's global standing? Gilad Katz, take the lead, please.
Well, I think it's outrageous. I think it's outrageous. It's a disgrace. I wasn't surprised to see that we're talking about a few dozens of wackos.
My view is that the clear evidence that there are masses of people determined and idealistic who are willing to devote day and night to fight for Israel's democracy, whether it's in Israel or in the U.S., expats or people from Israel or American Jews, all of that is good for Israel's global standing, at least among those around the globe with whom one wishes close association. And frankly, the idea that there is a home and there is an abroad in our 24/7 borderless digital era is a little childish and very 20th century.
Well, Mr. Perry, we should send the memo to all national, ethnic, regional conflicts if that's the case. Dr. Freeman, your thoughts?
Well, I think it shows that Israel is very strong as a democracy. People can freely move to anywhere they want. They can freely work wherever they want. They can say whatever they want without any kind of retribution. I think it really proves the opposite, that Israel continues to move towards democratic values, and none of these people know that nothing will happen to them when they return here after they protest Netanyahu.
Should American Jewry have a say on what's happening here in Israel?
Well, I think they can have a say just like any other on the world, but I think more specifically on issues that relate to them. Issues that relate to maybe aliyah laws, conversion laws, things like that. When it comes to things that have to do maybe with military service, things that have to do with actual living in this country day to day, I think it's more apparent that they might not know enough.
There's no denying that there is a closeness between American Jews and Israel, and Israel that depends on the support of American Jews to ensure the support of U.S. political parties and of the U.S. administration, which it needs. We're very, very intertwined. And most American Jews do not want Israel to become an authoritarian country. The reason why they've been silent throughout the decades regarding Israeli politics is a reticence that comes from a sense that we don't have the right and we have to support Israel's government no matter what. And actually, I think the drama happening in Israel is profound enough that we might ask them to be disabused of these two things. At this particular moment, they very much have the right, and indeed they should understand that if it is possible to love Israel and not love its government, I would go so far as to say, if you love Israel, you maybe have a duty to make your opposition to this government known quite loudly and clearly. Because what you call a judicial overhaul, a judicial reform, what Netanyahu calls a judicial reform, a tweak, is in fact an overhaul of the system of government in Israel. And whereas you're right that there are 200 laws that members of the coalition have proposed, some of them already on a docket, and please let me finish, and in the process of legislation that would not only eviscerate judicial review, but also kneecap the gatekeepers, domesticate the media, and transfer all kinds of power to rabbinical courts, and all of it combined is a real Putinization of the country. It is much more than judicial, and it is much more radical than a reform. And you have to be either a supporter of it or rather credulous not to see what's going on.
Of course, we'll become now North Korea. That's where we're heading.
No, you'll become Poland or Hungary.
Okay, we'll have to wait and see. All right, gentlemen, thank you so very much. Dan Perry, Gilad Katz, Dr. Jonathan Freeman for joining us. We appreciate your time, your insight. We're out for a 2-minute break, and we'll be back with much more. Do not go anywhere.